Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's episode of Canal Days. As always, I am your host, Scary, along with my co-host, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. Our Canal Days series dwells into the vast collection of historical sites throughout Massachusetts, with Robert's expertise of the local history as our personal guide. Each episode, we uncover history throughout local communities with historic houses, meaningful monuments, preeminent pivotal pioneers, and remarkable remaining remnants, all while uncovering their seminal significance. Today's episode of Canal Days, we're going to be taking a look behind the scenes with founder Robert Kaboom. So, Robert, describe your business and your reason for starting it.
It's a presentation and a tour business, and I started it 10 years ago, and this is the 11th year of doing it. And the whole concept is to get people to understand their environment and their town or city better in terms of the history of both the environment and our town or city. So I started out in South Hadley and Holyoke 10 years ago doing tours and presentations. And I started small, 3 a year, but I kept building upwards. Now, I want this to be people-based so that people understand what they're looking at. Sure, I get a lot from it too, a lot of knowledge that I, always wanted to know about. But other people that come on a tour or listen to presentations also get involved. And since I do it from a people point of view, then a lot of people really understand their community a lot better and their environment a lot better. Now, I started with a concept of canals, churches, and parks in the very beginning, but it has expanded along the way to include cemeteries, reservoirs, streets, and houses. And I've added through the years more communities like Chicopee, Springfield, Ludlow, Belchertown, East Hampton, Amherst, so forth. And next year I want to apply for up to 25 different communities to really present well for people to understand, choose a concept, cemetery, so they understand why that cemetery was structured the way it was.
So, you offer free public tours for the community alongside your private paid tours. Why not charge for your public tours?
Well, I want people to, for free, get to know very well their environment and their history of the community. And they deserve that. And so I don't add charge to it. But I am paid by the cultural councils of the different communities that I show up in. And I also, this year, have a Massachusetts state level cultural council grant. And I also get private individuals to help out, and institutions hire me once in a while to go on tours or have presentations. Now, when I have people do for free, I'm very happy, and that includes indoors and presentations. But some people are more comfortable inside their institutions, and so I also get hired by them, and I present on a topic that they enjoy. So I built up a lot, and there's a lot more to do. It's not a topic that ever ends.
And what is your favorite topic to give tours and presentations on, and which do you think people get the most out of?
Probably my favorite topic is the canals because they're so special to Massachusetts. Massachusetts was the center of the American Industrial Revolution, and from the late 1790s into 100 years later to the 1890s, Massachusetts stayed the center of that industrial revolution. It was a revolution caused by the freedom of the people to do what they want fully. And for instance, the American Revolution that ended in 1783 allowed people in the United States to develop themselves, their institutions, businesses, their churches, and that allowed, through that freedom, to get better at what they were doing instead of being told to do in almost every field. Now, people that come on the tours, their favorite topic is always the larger canals. And that's for the same reason. They, they don't often get to have canals explained to them, and their history is very interesting. And there's no other state like Massachusetts for a power canal. Now, I've developed through the years, not only do I power canals, I do navigational canals, Montague and South Hadley. And this year I started up a new program called the Canals of the Connecticut River Valley. And I'm able to present the many different canal types that are possible around Massachusetts. Not only the power navigation, but also the irrigation and the municipal, that is, the water used directly by people. And there's other topics that people love. So out of the 7 major topics I do, people like to hear about the mills on these canals. They like to hear about the churches because maybe they're genealogists and they want to find out more about their great grandparents' church they attended for decades. And some people like cemeteries, so forth and so on. So everyone has their favorite. And within a given community, I've developed a core of people that like to show up for a lot of these events. And by then, every tour I give gets a new person also.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge you faced when starting out?
It was just the vast amount of information I would need to have to do this. I always use primary materials and I always do my own research because I want to be with trustworthy information. So I don't read secondary sources unless they've been researched to the level that I expect to. And so that people enjoy very much. Now, sometimes these research projects are easy and sometimes they're hard. One of the easiest research projects to have is a cemetery. And the reason why everything's in front of you and genealogical information in the past 30 years has exploded because of the digital revolution. And so I can find information on a given person I see inscribed on a tombstone very easily and put together a very worthwhile tour. And this happens for other topics too. Now, some topics are very hard. Reservoirs are very hard because outside of the Quabbin Reservoir, which has been researched a lot, other reservoirs have not been. And so where do you go for information? It's not even a favorite topic for newspapers in the past. I have to go to town and city reports and read about the water department's information. For instance, I don't always know ahead of time, like in January when I'm set up a schedule, how much time to allocate to different events. But about 8 years ago, I was researching the Ashley Reservoir in Holyoke, and I thought it'd be similar to the White Street Reservoir, which I had to research for 35 hours, including walking time. But the Ashley took me 100 hours of research and walking, and I didn't expect that one at all.
I was just going to ask you, how do you get your information and what really goes into preparing for your tours, and do you spend a lot of time getting ready for them?
Yes, I always break the time into 3, the research period, which includes an estimate of how much time I'm going to have to devote to that given presentation or tour. And the other of the 3, besides the research, is actual. I have to do a walk around, and that comes the final stage. And that's only an hour to figure out the nice route for people to follow around in. And in between is the other things I do. I do a podcast for each topic. I do a video, at least one video for each topic. And then it also includes picture and text because each topic gets its own page on my website, holyokecanaltour.org. And from there, I'm able to build up. Now, pretty much all the time, I could say a cemetery tour takes me 12 hours to get everything ready. But the other ones could be a little more difficult. So I try to put in difficult ones every year, and usually those difficult ones are centered around either bigger parks or reservoirs. So for instance, last year I had a tour around the lower pond of East Hampton, and that was something I didn't know much about, so I really had to dig into it, and it turned out to be not too bad by the end.
And stick around, we'll be right back after these few words from our sponsors. Are you fascinated by local history and eager to investigate the obscure treasures off the beaten paths throughout the state of Massachusetts? Or maybe just seeking an unforgettable cultural activity for family and friends to enjoy? Look no further than Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, founded by Robert Camus. With over a decade of experience, Robert offers captivating tours and presentations of historic sites and landmarks throughout the state. Whether you're interested in canals, cemeteries, charming churches, or more, Robert's tours provide a unique and enriching experience for all. And that's not it. You can also schedule private tours tailored to your interests, ensuring a personalized adventure and unforgettable memories. Perfect for families or groups of all sizes, making for an exciting hands-on learning experience that brings history to life. Simply visit holyokecanaltour.org or email bobcat4214, to book your private tour today. So getting back to our episode on behind the scenes of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke and Canal Days with Robert Camus. So what are the most innovative and exciting projects that you've been a part of or hosted over the last year?
I think the most innovative in terms of what I know, it's always biased towards myself, is the House in Holyoke Through Time series. I started in Holyoke. We're now into the 4th year of that. And I thought to myself, how could I draw a lot of material from the community into a very interesting presentation? And I said, well, a house can do that for you. Because the people in the house, they go out Monday through Fridays and do a job, and usually that job benefits the community. Saturday they go off and relax somewhere, and that tells you what their hobbies are, what parks they may like to go to. And then historically, people didn't travel far away to relax. They would go to a park within their own community. Now, on Sundays, they always went out to churches. And so these people might have done something for the church, or they might just worship there, got married there. And so you could draw all this information in on a given house. And not only that, I always choose a house, of course, that's at least 100 years old. And it almost always not going to be just one family. There's going to be, at least 2 families. And up to one house, I had 7 families. I went through 5 stories, and the last 2 stories I didn't cover because they're too recent. But this allowed me to draw in people like that, because it gets a sense of there's only one community and everything else is connected to it. And a lot of these homes had people that did a incredible amount for the community. Charity was very important to these communities from like 1900 1930s, because there was a lot of poor people around. There were lots of churches and schools, other institutions that needed to have support. There was not much tax base, so much was done by charity. And so a lot of these people did a lot for the community. The first house I did was on Linden Street in Holyoke, and I was amazed how much every family did something for the community. Whether it was a family of 3 medical doctors, whether it was a family of mill owners where the wife and the family did charity, or whether it was that the house used to be a school or became a school itself, like on a couple of my presentations on these houses.
And are there any special events coming up throughout the rest of the year?
And this year, one special event in the year 2025, and I tried to have one special concept each year. The special concept this year was because I was able to get a Massachusetts state level cultural council grant, and it was entitled Canals in the Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. And so I've been able to go to canals this year I've never gone to before, and also to communities like the libraries to put on presentations for people about the canal in their community or about the canals along the river across several communities. Like I did a full program of the 6 power canals of the Chicopee River. And I went through those 6 power canals on the same river and what they had in common. And people really enjoyed that very much. And hardly anyone would connect this way, and I like doing that very much. But remember, every year I have a new concept. The first year was canals, the second year churches. The one year, like the 5th year, I had a concept of trolleys. And other years I'll stress the parks and do a lot of presentations and tours of parks in that community. So by doing this, people can see connections between them. Next year I hope to do it on cemeteries. And I've always done a cluster of cemeteries. Like I don't do one cemetery in one community and then forget about it. The first year of doing Chicopee, I did like 3 cemeteries all at once. And I promised them I'd come back every year and do 2 more. There's so many cemeteries in Chicopee. I'm into the 5th year of doing it, and I'm still not going to be done until next year. Right? But other communities just stress other things, depending upon what their community is about.
And what is do you plan on expanding or trying any new events for next year's schedule?
I hope to get better at everything. Of course, next year's special topic, I hope to be on cemeteries. And I've done presentations at libraries about cemeteries, but usually I give tours. Now, what's the presentations about? They're about the properties of the cemeteries, how the bodies are oriented, how the gravestones are oriented, how the footstones are oriented, what's the history of the cemeteries within that community. So I'll just pick an example. I'm not sure I'll ever do this one, but hopefully someday I want to go to the Wilbraham Library and give a presentation called The Burial Grounds of Wilbraham Throughout Its History. And that means that I will talk about its cemeteries, but also if there's no Catholic cemeteries in Wilbraham, I'll tell people how or what cemeteries are probably going to be selected by any Catholic family in Wilbraham to be buried in. And the same for Jewish people. And every year, you're right, I try to develop into a new field. Last year, for the first time, I developed a series called A Mill Through Time. And I'll go through just that one mill through its entire history. Last year I started the Skinner Mill in Holyoke, and this year I'm going to do the Springfield Blanket Company. I happen to have been donated a horse blanket that was made by the Springfield Blanket Company, and most of their products were blankets from horses. And so this year I'm going to be doing that. And I want to give that presentation in Holyoke at the Providence Place. It's not been set up yet, but the connection is that the person who owned the Springfield Blanket Company also owned the land that Providence Place is on, the former Bright Side, and that was bought out to make an orphanage. Look at all the connections you can make once you get a lot of information and can see this. And so yes, I try to develop new things every year.
And what advice can you give to others that may be considering starting their own business, especially in an innovative field that you start from ground up? With you.
Try as much as you can to do your own research, and also try to be customer oriented. In that way, people will appreciate that very much. There's a lot of businesses in this country and in the world, and the ones that have been succeeded in the last few years are the ones that specialize greatly from the grassroots upwards, because they identify what people want and then go into that field and, try to get it to the people. And I've always stressed that very much through the years. And if people do that, then they'll grow up a customer base, just like I have my own base of people. And now, like I mentioned before, I do get money from private groups, and they want to know about these, and their patrons and their institutions want to know this. And it's quite valuable information.
And every year you pick a charity to highlight and contribute to. So can you touch on the charity that you're focusing on this year and how you choose?
Okay, the charity this year is Providence Ministries, based in Holyoke. And it was very easy to select them. They do so much good work for the community. They take in used clothes and sell out to poor people. They take in food that's still fresh, and the canned food they sell to poor people. But they offer a supper and a dinner, a lunch every day of the year for poor people from the food that's donated to them by the people, families, and the communities around here, but also by institution donations of food and monetary items. And they also run Broderick House, Loretta House, and McClary House. These are homes that mostly have men that are addicts, and they try to get them to live here in a drug-free environment. The first year is the Loretta House. The second year, they go out to the Broderick House and McClary House. And they're pair-driven, so they help each other out. They get jobs out in the community and develop and try to stay away from the environment that has been trying to hold them back in their lives. Also, a very strong reason this year of 2025 is the 150th anniversary of the horrible fire that happened in Holyoke that killed 70 people. And that happened on the land that the Providence Ministry now uses. The Precious Blood Church burned on May 27th, 1875. I've researched this project. It's the biggest project I ever did by far. It took me 400 hours of original research to find out the true names of the 70 people that died from that fire. I found out their birth dates, real names. I found out if they ever got married, what their marriage date and place was. And then I found their burial location. The death location was easy, of course, right around Holyoke. But the burial location, some were buried sure in the Precious Blood Cemetery of South Hadley, but others weren't. So I had to go research the Quebec records and other Massachusetts records to find where these people were buried. So, big project for me, and so that led on to me choosing Providence Ministries as my charity for the year. My 11th charity in a row for 11 years. It has always been a Holyoke institution that is near the canals, that serves the poor people or the very young people of Holyoke.
And thank you for listening to Canal Days and our episode on Behind the Scenes with founder Robert Comu, and joining us on our journey through the rich history of the Connecticut River Valley. We hope you enjoyed uncovering some of the hidden and overlooked marbles and their fascinating stories that shaped our past in the state of Massachusetts. Special thanks to Robert Camus, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, for sharing his passion and expertise with us. Remember, you can find more information about Robert's tours, book private tours, and explore the Canal Days video and podcast series at holyokecanaltour.org. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to keep exploring and discovering the history that is hidden in plain sight all around us. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune into our next episode of Canal Days and log on to holyokecanaltour.org. Until next time.